What are we ultimately trying to accomplish here in our life? We're trying to ultimately get two things done, which I take from Russell Brunson. We want to have success, but success is abstract. What does success mean? Breaking that down, one is achievement. So you get things done. You get to the end of the rainbow. You get the pot of gold. You make the big sale. You grow the big company. You have the big exit. That's the achievement side of things. But then there's also the second side of success, which is fulfillment. And in the fulfillment, the way that they defined it was fulfillment is how you feel about yourself when you're alone. So when you look at yourself in the mirror and you reflect on who Ben Reed is, or Andy thinks, how do I feel about Andy today? When you're by yourself, nobody else can see, but you are thinking about it. That's fulfillment. As Tony Robbins likes to say, achievement without fulfillment is ultimate failure. So it's not just about having the achievement, it's also about being fulfilled as a human being. The question then is, how do you achieve both? How do you get the achievement and how do you get the fulfillment? I believe it comes down to this quote here: pursuing life through values I choose. Because I think it not only gets you to what you want, but it also helps you be fulfilled and be the person you want to be. That's how I think you get to success. Pursuing life through values I choose. Now, the lucky thing is, according to Alex Hormozi, values are skills. They're skills that we can practice. And that's why every single day I actually write down in my journal, how did I live my values today? Why does that matter from a team perspective or from a new hire perspective or a company perspective? Now, to back out, to wrap your mind around why these things matter, the reason it matters is, how do you get to achievement? It's through a set of actions we have to take. And those actions are based upon behaviors. It's the things that we do every day. Okay, we agree you have to take certain good actions to get to certain good outcomes. But then how do you make the right action? How do you take the right step? How do you have the right behavior? And behaviors could be everything from the way that you respond to somebody when you're angry, to the way that you answer a phone call, to the way that you fill out a report, to the way that you handle feedback. So those are all behaviors. And it could be as big as an obvious thing and as small as a little micro adjustment you make on a sales call. Those are all behaviors. So behaviors is a whole subject. So what influences behaviors is emotion. So your emotions determine your behaviors. What determines your emotions in the way that you perceive your emotions? It's your beliefs and your values. So if you really think about it, if you're like, I want this thing, this achievement, you have to work back through your behaviors, your emotions, and all the way down to your underlying beliefs and values. For example, this morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, alarm goes off. My feeling was anger. The anger, I couldn't control, right? That's just how I felt at that point. But because my value here is integrity and grit, I decided, despite the anger, that I was going to get out of bed when I said I was going to get out of bed anyways to do the job. Another way to think about that is, I feel angry. I'm going to go hit the snooze button and sleep some more. That wouldn't be in alignment with grit and integrity. So my values actually overrode my emotions. Where if you haven't defined your values or your beliefs first, especially at the team level, then people just act their behaviors based upon the emotions that they have, that they don't even understand where they're coming from or what other truth guiding compass tells them how to behave. So that's the reason that these values are so critical. As I've studied billionaires and multimillionaires and I've spent time with these people, the number one thing that determines somebody from being very successful in life versus being average or being nobody is this. It's like, literally, this is the multimillionaire 10-minute spiel. The idea is, you can have more than you got because you can become more than you are. Think about that again. You can have more than you got because you can become more than you are. So the underlying idea there is the growth mindset. And the underlying idea here is that values are skills. The reason that I journal about these every single day is because I recognize that I am not perfect at them. In fact, I'm not only not perfect at them, a lot of my values I don't actually adhere to in the way that I want to. And so I have to intentionally, every single day, bring awareness to these values. It's the old Tony Robbins spiel where he sits somebody down in a room and he says, look around for all the red in the room. And you look around and then he says, okay, what objects did you see that were blue? And then you're like, I didn't see any blue objects because you weren't looking for them. It's the same idea where they do tests with, there's actually studies on this, where they have a dancing bear in the background of a video and they have the person looking for some other object in the video. And then they say, hey, so did you see this very obvious dancing bear in the middle of the video? And the person says, there was no dancing bear. Why? Because they weren't focused on those things. And so humans have a bias to what their attention is focused on, even if it's extremely obvious. And so that's why even in your own self-development and growth, this message applies to anything you do in life, in my opinion. If you don't know what your values are today, but if you are just on your own and you want to explore this further, you can simply go and you can do this very simply by saying, name 10 superheroes. superheroes. And this sounds cheesy, but if it's too abstract to think about values and it's boring and it's a weird subject for you, do this. This is actually a fun thing. This is how I did it, is that you say, here are 10 superheroes and say, what do these superheroes stand for and against? So it's now saying Superman stands for truth, justice, and the American way, and against corruption, tyranny in the form of justice. Batman stands for justice and resilience of the human spirit. Batman represents the peak of human achievement and intellect. Crime and corruption, he stands against. So why am I doing this? What I can do is if there's certain things I like out of Superman or Iron Man, which is actually who I do, or Thor, what you can do is say, okay, tell me more about Thor, Iron Man, etc. What I care about is it's giving me a way of personalizing and resonating with another character that is ideal, like a Superman, and then striving for that type of excellence. And so knows truth. Stop one for me. This is a fun way of exercise of coming up with some values for yourself. And I suggest that you guys do this. I truly do. I'm not just saying that. Once you do that, you come up with a list and then you say, okay, who do I want to be? Someone who owns outcomes and takes responsibility for all results. And does that mean I'm always going to be that person? No, it doesn't. But it means that I'm going to do my best. The reason I'm going through this, I want to tell you the why I'm taking all of our time to going over this and why I think it matters. I think it is the most important subject we have, but it's something that we gloss over every single day. Why did I take guys through the sales training the way I did? And why do I do my interview process the way that I do? This is going to be an aha moment for some of you guys. I don't know if it will be, but I will tell you here, I go into sales assessments. The reason I do these is because they measure values and they measure your behavior. So the first thing is actually in your behavioral components, which tells me how you behave, but your values tell me why you behave the way that you do. So I'm not training you guys to be sales managers right now or VPs of sales, but the first thing I do, there's a basic screening interview, then I immediately just talk to the person for 15 minutes to see if they're a normal human being and I want to actually have a conversation with them. And if I do, I immediately go into this and I have a deep conversation about the results of this because I want to understand their values, because their values determine how they respond to their emotions and it determines their behaviors, which means it will determine whether or not they get the job done. But also, in addition, it tells me if their values align with my own values. Because the problem is where there's so much conflict in the United States and the world, and we are all fighting amongst each other. The reason for that is because there's a different set of values. And it's not a personality clash so much as it is a value clash. So it's actually a war of values that's occurring when you see all of this disagreement. When it comes to building a team, the number one thing that you want is value alignment. Because as long as there's value alignment, there'll be a similar set of outcomes. Not always, but it's a very good bedrock foundation for that to occur. Everyone knows the common hero journey, which is inciting incident. For example, Frodo, Lord of the Rings, a perfect hero's journey, finds the evil ring. That's an inciting incident, but he doesn't know what it is yet. He's not trying to be a hero. He's a reluctant hero. So this little guy picks up this ring, doesn't realize what he's just picked up, doesn't think much of it. Then all of a sudden there's a recognition that there's a big problem. The way that usually happens is because of a guide. And so who comes in? It's obviously the wizard, right? The wizard comes in, Gandalf, and he says, oh my God, you have no idea what you have. And then there's a call to action. We need to go find other guides, which is the elves and all the other people, and they come together. And then they ultimately agree somebody needs to take this and destroy it. But the only person that can resist, because of this special quality of this one character, is this little hobbit. And so then he goes on the journey and he has all these crazy adventures and he almost dies and he almost fails and he doubts himself. And ultimately he gets to the mountain and destroys the ring. That's the standard hero's journey. Inciting incident, unsuspecting hero, call to action, guides, goes on a journey, almost dies, overcomes, and then kills the beast. That's the one journey. But the second journey, the Tale of Two Heroes, is actually the character development. So who did Frodo have to become to be Frodo at the end? The Frodo in the beginning, the unsuspecting little hobbit who was happy drinking beer and dancing around, was a much different person at the end. The same thing with all the characters. Gandalf, he becomes a white wizard. He literally physically evolves. He has his own character development. Same thing with even the evil people in that film. They all go through their character journey. But the interesting point, I'm not here to tell you about playwriting and story writing and all that stuff, but it's actually very interesting because you can apply the same idea to your own life. And you can actually apply that same idea to the team we have here. We're all a band of characters, no different than those elves. It's an interesting thing to consider when you're talking about your own self-development. We're all evolving. We're all on the journey. even if it doesn't seem like it, even if it seems like we're the same people, we've got hired, now we just know each other a little bit better. It's not like that. Every time we talk to each other, we've all been on a little piece of a journey. The Ben Reed you met 2 weeks ago is no longer that Ben Reed. He went through a journey. I went through the mountains of Colorado and almost died from a sickness in Vernal, and almost got rolled over by a truck, and then came back and went through a blizzard. I'm a different person, just like you guys all are. And so I think it's a very interesting thing to look at humans like that, because it helps us not only appreciate that journey a little bit more, but it helps us understand that we're all a work in progress and we're all able to change and develop. And we will, it's inevitable. But the core of that, like bringing it full circle back, the core of what we're doing here is based upon the values. That's what it is. It's based upon the values. And what enabled Frodo to achieve what he achieved was because he actually recognized in himself things he didn't even realize he had, like courage, like hardworking grit, loyalty, for example, like standing up for what he believes to be good. But you can adopt things that you didn't believe. The redeeming quality in some of the evil characters is that they actually recognize they're evil and they go, I was wrong, and I'm actually going to do better. The idea that we all develop and we all learn from our mistakes. So it's not just about enhancing what you intrinsically came out of the womb with. It's about saying, who do I want to be? How can I be that person? As we relate to each other, it's important to have a guiding set of principles and beliefs that dictate our behavior. So what a culture really is, when you boil it down, is a set of agreements around values matched with an operating process and set of standards around behaviors. That's what a culture is. And if we have a clear agreement on what that is, then we have a cohesive culture. If we don't have that, then we don't have a good culture, in my opinion. So the attempt of this entire discussion here, I hopefully sold you on the idea of values. The whole point here is to understand that this isn't just, let's have compassion, guys. That's not the point. The point is to say, I want a compass, a direction to focus on and to strive toward. I need a North Star, so to speak, that guidepost to say, this is what I want to be. And as a human being, it is not going to be a straight journey. You are going to go towards compassion and then screw it up with your mom later tonight, and then come back with your wife, and then go down the hill to the kid you're mentoring at the YMCA. It's an ever evolving and constant discipline of seeking to achieve these ideals.